How do I get connected with people when I'm not naturally really good at that? This is something I have heard from a number of people lately at our church. We actually did a series on this called Hello, My Name Is a few years ago with a lot of great principles. So let me just give you some of the highlights here. Most people are not naturally extroverts. And even if they are, they may not be very comfortable breaking into social circles and making new friends, particularly when they move to a new area or move into a new church. But we all crave close relationships, and God wired us to be in community. There are three main things that I think can really help if you're looking to get connected in a church. The first one is just an understanding you need to have about how God designed us. And this is going to solve a lot of problems. So you have to get this. God has designed people to only have a limited number of relational connectors. God has designed you and me with a limited number of relational connectors. He did not build us to be able to have 50 really close friends. You can have a few. For some people, it may be 2 or 3. For some people, it may be 5 or 10. But there's a certain amount of people that you can be really close with. And then there's a larger number you can be friends with. And there's a larger number that you just know as acquaintances, but you don't know really well. That's how God designed us to work. So understand that just because you have open relational connectors, which is common after switching churches or a move or a job transition or something like that, it doesn't mean that the person you're talking to has open relational connectors. They may have all the close connections that they can handle right now, and that's okay. That doesn't mean not to try to connect with people. It actually gives you more confidence to connect with people. The reason that people don't put themselves out there to build friendships is what? The fear of rejection. What you need to understand is that a lot of the time, if it seems like the person is rejecting you, they're not. They simply have full relational connectors. Go into friendship building with that mindset. Be proactive, ask people to lunch, invite them to do things together, give opportunities to explore the possibilities of friendship, but don't hold it against the other person if it doesn't take off. And don't wallow in self-pity thinking that it's a rejection of you. Sometimes it's just not a good fit because of personality or interests. Sometimes it's just they have full relational connectors. And so what you feel as a soft rejection of them not reciprocating the interest in relationship that you have interested in them, the same level of energy back, it may just be the relational connectors are full. It's usually not someone trying to be mean or cliquish, even though it is often interpreted that way. That is a misinterpretation of the situation in nearly every instance. It is usually you've got someone with open relational connectors trying to form a relationship with someone who has full relationship connectors. So what do you have to do? You have to go find people who have open relational connectors. Usually the best way to do that is to get involved with groups who have other new people in them. And so whether it's some kind of a new connect group at the church or a new small group at the church or going through Rooted is a place where this would be great in our church, or a new membership class where you've got other people that are new to the church, but you want to get involved in things where you're finding people that are new, because the more new you are, the more likely you have open relational connectors. And so often, if people come in and they're brand new, they have a hard time breaking into the social circles that already exist, and they walk away thinking, oh, it's a clique. No, it's God's design. God has designed us with a limited number of close relational connectors, and if those get full, we just can't add more to it. I can't have 20 best friends. It doesn't work that way. I can have a few really good close friends, and then I can have, a few dozen friends. But if one of those friends wants to become a really close friend and I don't have the open relational connectors, that doesn't mean that I'm being cliquish. That just means my relational connectors are full. And that means that the rejection is not a negative thing. It's just, the relational connectors are full. Find people who have open relational connectors. This will help so many people who get judgy about other people not reciprocating their desire for a close relationship. It's hypocritical, it's self-centered, it's prideful, it's arrogant. You've got to rethink that mindset. Cut yourself some slack when it comes to finding people who have the openness for a relationship, and cut other people some slack too. Now, second thing, if you want to have friends, you have to be friendly. You can't just show up on time, sit in the service, and leave when it's done. You have to get there early and find people to introduce yourself to and hang around afterward and invite people out to lunch. Try out a Sunday morning group. It's an easy place to just show up and start meeting people who might be kind of in some of the same stage of life or asking the same types of questions. But you've got to be proactive. You cannot just come for the bare minimum and expect this to just happen. One thing that I see a lot of people get confused by is they come into a church and they have an expectation, I think, that the people who are in that church and really plugged in are going to then reach out and pull them into the same kind of social circle that they already have formed. And that's just not how things usually work. I mean, occasionally it works that way, especially if you already knew someone who was well connected. It might be easy for you to plug in and get connected with an existing group. But honestly, what works best is usually just starting a new group. And that's okay. It's good to have multiple groups of different circles of people who, they can all be acquaintances together, all be on good terms with each other, but you're going to have different sort of clusters of good friends in the church. And if you're not a good fit in one right now and you're not able to break into one right now, that's okay. Start to build a new one. Go find those people. One time I was talking with a guy, this is in a previous church. He came over to me and said, I'm just so fed up. I'm so frustrated. No one wants to be my friend. And this is a guy that had been around the church actually for several years, but he said, nobody wants to be my friend. And I listened to him for a while, and then I asked him to look around the room and point out to me all of the people that you see right now sitting by themselves. Why don't you go introduce yourself to them? Why don't you go be the type of person that you're hoping someone will be for you? Go reach out to them. And he kind of hemmed and hawed, and he didn't really feel like doing that. And then ironically, as we were talking, someone came up and invited him out to lunch, and he turned them down. So he wasn't being proactive, and he wasn't even being friendly. You have to be the kind of intentional, friendly person, and then specifically look for those people who maybe also have open relational connectors. Okay, that was two things. The third thing is you need to know how to talk about things that develop deep friendships. There is a pattern here that if you will learn it, it's very simple, it's just 4 things, it will help you take your conversations to a deeper level. Don't try to rush this, but understand that if you get stuck at the first or second level, you're never going to see a deep relationship form. And the failure to understand this is why a lot of people get frustrated that their relationship stays more shallow than they would like for it to. So here's the pattern. Just memorize this. Our relationships tend to form along these conversational stages. Number 1, the things we can see. How's the weather today? What about that game last night? That kind of stuff. Number 2, basic personal info. What do you do for a living? Where did you grow up? In St. Louis, where did you go to high school? What was your history like, your background, those sorts of things, information about you. 3, so that's 1 and 2. Now we're getting to 3, a little bit deeper level of conversation. What are your dreams? What are your desires? What are your hopes for the future? This is a new level of depth in conversation, not just the stuff around us, not just current events, not things going on right now, not politics, but what do you hope to see happen in the future for you? What are your goals in life? What are you doing? That's level 3, and that's a good level to get to. But if you really want to go deeper in a relationship, then you've got to, at some point, move into number 4, which is regrets, losses, and pain. That's the deepest level of relationship. Conversations about those things require a certain level of trust, so you shouldn't rush into that. But if you live in stage 1 or 2, you will never feel like you have a deep, close relationship with that person. Until you get into dreams and desires and regret, and then regrets, losses, and pain, that's when you get into a deeper level of relationship. Oftentimes, the setting for those conversations and the trust required to go there well without rushing it requires shared experiences. So some of the best relationship building advice I can give you is try to create opportunities for people with open relational connectors to go together and do fun things together. Whether it's axe throwing or playing a game together, a board game together, or going on a trip somewhere, any kind of vacation. In the past, we've done whitewater rafting with different couples. We've done all sorts of trips and things together. Those shared experiences, all the families that went to Pinecrest a week ago, They all had some shared experiences. It doesn't matter if the experiences are good or bad, even in some cases, as long as everybody, doesn't get after each other and on each other's throats while they're doing it. But even, at Pinecrest, it was wet, it was cold, and the 200 plus people that went there are always going to have that memory. And there are families that I got to know way better that I never would have gotten to know at all if I hadn't been there. So shared experiences, so important. Look for people with open relational connectors and don't judge them if theirs are already full. Just move on, find somebody else. Be proactive and intentional. If you want to have friends, you got to be friendly. And follow the 4 stages of depth of conversation to build relationships, and do that in the context, ideally, of some shared experiences that you can have. And that's what makes relationships go deep and last a long time.